Good evening, everyone. We are so excited you're here with us. We are so excited you made it through the cold. Last year, this event was also on the coldest night of the year, so kudos for you. And can we have maybe just an initial round of applause for how worth it was for this amazing food? We'll hear more about them, but thank you so much to M Dining and its amazing team of chefs who are bringing us amazing food. And in a little while, you'll hear from some other amazing chefs in our region. So this event is both event and it's a class. So raise your hand if you are an enrolled student in Food Literacy for All. Yes, we can give our hands up. This is the 10th year of this course. There are actually 230 enrolled students, but it's a virtual course except for this night and one other night. So our other students are with us live on YouTube, watching and participating in the polls and things we'll do with a little thing called iClicker that all of you who are not enrolled students of the class can just ignore when we talk about that. So you'll see a few housekeeping things around the course. This course has been going on for 10 years and is the result of an amazing partnership between University of Michigan's Sustainable Food System Initiative, and I want to give a shout out to Dr. Leslie Huey here, over there, who is one of the founders of that program and this course. It's unique in two ways. One, it's unique because it is open to community members anywhere in the world to participate for free. So besides this night and one other night, which we do in this hybrid format, it's on Zoom, and anyone in the world can register. And we will have up to several hundred to 400, 500, 600, 700 folks join, depending on who the speaker is, in addition to our 230 undergraduate and graduate students who are enrolled. The other unique thing about this is that it is taught with a community co-instructor. So I'm Amanda Edmonds. I am the new faculty instructor as of January 1st. I come from 25 years of working in community food systems in the broader community, Ypsilanti specifically. And Julius Buzzard here, who you'll hear from and will be facilitating and introducing our panel, is the community co-instructor. So this course recognizes the value of community partners in a real way, bringing in and paying a community co-instructor to bring the richness and the connections to a course. So we're so happy you're here. This course is made possible by a lot of people, including the Sustainable Food System Initiative, the Program for the Environment, and the School for Environment and Sustainability here at the university, among many folks. So here's myself, Amanda Maria Edmonds, Julius Buzzard. Sammy Maldonado is our course coordinator. There's a lot behind the scenes for a course like this, as you might imagine. She was a student here, graduated with her master's last year, and is now in Minnesota, but still helping us remotely. We just met Dr. Hui. We've got a background team from IT for our weekly Zooms, someone helping us with newsletter, and then, not on the slide actually. I'm right there. Oh, there you are. Taylor Julene, our amazing GSI, who was also the GSI last year and helps make things run. Julius, you want to introduce our community partners?
So in addition to everyone that Amanda just shared that's a part of this course and making it what it is today, there are this group of community partners who have invested in and helped to come up with the lineup and think through what this course means for this semester. It represents the community co-instructors who've been a part of this project over the past 10 years. In these organizations, Oakland Avenue Urban Farm, Detroit Food Policy Council, Detroit Black Food Sovereignty Network, and Growing Hope. And these folks in particular, Jerry Herbron, Chef Phil Jones, who you'll hear from more tonight, and Dr. Shakar Tyler, who also teaches here, who you may have known from some of their classes.
Okay, so if you're a community member and you're not yet registered and you'd like to be, we have many more speakers coming up throughout the course of the semester. You can scan this QR code and this will take you to our registration link. Otherwise, you can find us if you look us up on Google, just the Food Literacy for All website. You can register for free, register once, and you'll get a reminder each week about our Zoom session. You can join us. How to engage. So we have a few ways you can engage with us. We're on social media. You can find us right there through those handles. If you have any questions, you can typically ask those through the Zoom feature. We have Q&A. Sometimes our comment section is super active, super fun. For students, Amanda mentioned we do iClicker, so this is a polling sort of feature, and we use it to take attendance and track participation in class. That's coming up in just a second. And then all of the classes are recorded and available online, so you can access all of them. Since the beginning of our course, they're all there. Each week, we have students respond to required materials. So this week, we had a podcast and our speaker bios. And we chose one student's video to share with you all. And I thought this was just a nice personal reflection on what's coming up today. Hopefully the sound works.
Chef Jermond Booze podcast opened my eyes to an entirely different perspective of food and how it has the power to translate emotion, culture, history.
Is there any chance to turn the volume up back there? No? All right.
Go for it.
All right. Okay, so listen closely. Here we go.
Listening to Chef Jermond Booze podcast opened my eyes to an entirely different perspective of food and how it has the power to translate emotion, culture, history, art. I love the entire structure of the podcast and how they used his story as a platform that opened the door to the stories he aims to tell. One of the most striking parts of the podcast was when he said, "I realized how intentional it was that we were kept from our own history. I know about French food and French culture. I know about Indian food and Indian culture, but I don't know about African food and African culture." The food opened my eyes to what's going on, which was heavy to hear considering so many dishes come from the Middle Passage and are shaped in Black American communities generation through generation. So I'm starting to understand that it's not just about surface level flavors, presentations of a dish, or even knowing how to cook. In this story, it's about the integration of flavors with art and intentionally missing pieces of history that the dish itself brings back together. If that's not powerful enough, Booze mentors youth through the Detroit Food Academy and gives access to ancestral knowledge that was intentionally erased. So it's pretty amazing to see food used as a multidimensional tool for education, integrating different forms of art and cultural restoration.
Great. Thanks, Devin. All right, so now we're moving into our poll. So this is only relevant to students who are enrolled in the class. And usually if you're joining us via Zoom, we have a poll feature for you as well. But today we just invite you to sort of think about this question if you're not an enrolled student. If you are an enrolled student, I'm going to get the iClicker up and running now. And our question here is, what is one way you might practice food as resistance in your own life, big or small? There are many ways, but, I'm on the wrong question. When did you last eat a food or dish that connected you to culture, memory, or resistance? We're assuming some of you within the last hour. For those of you joining us remotely, we're also curious. And I have the results coming in here, so we have most students saying within the last hour, which is great. That's the intention. 7 folks say it's been a long time. Go for it.
So you can see, for those of you who are community members, that we use the assignments throughout the class, from these poll questions throughout to the video responses on our speakers. It's fun to hear in advance of the speaker you hear on the panel, et cetera, to really engage with the material and engage with the not just the material, but their own feelings and reaction and how what we're learning is impacting them.
Yeah, and we have most of our students responding now. So 68 said within the last hour, 28 said earlier today, 58 said within the last week, 32 said within the last month, and 9 said it's been a long time. We are now going to introduce Amanda with M Dining.
So I'll say that the other Amanda E. here is coming up and it does an amazing job with this amazing team you're seeing of putting together this event. And we've been really proud to have this kind of community-university partnership even in this space. Amanda.
Okay, thanks. All right. Hey, everybody. Hi, my name is Amanda Ewing. I am the Director of Culture and Engagement for Michigan Dining. I'm really thrilled to be together with all of you tonight for this third annual Food as Resistance partnership event. This partnership was actually born out of conversations with Michigan Dining staff who wanted the opportunity to celebrate the legacy of Dr. King during the week of the MLK Symposium at the University of Michigan, and a way to contribute to programming, conversations about food, and to be a part of gathering and celebrating the people who feed us here on this campus. We know that gathering around a meal isn't an extra or an add-on to an event, but it can be the central catalyst for conversation about health, equity, justice, and so much more. At Michigan Dining, we are dedicated to fostering an inclusive and enriching space at our table that nourishes the campus community's well-being, promotes a sense of belonging, and encourages personal growth through global cuisine and education. Each one of tonight's chefs prepared recipes that are meaningful to them and are somehow related to the themes of community, care, and/or resistance. I encourage you, if you haven't already, to say hello to the chefs, learn about a dish maybe you've never tried before, spend a moment celebrating the people who feed us tonight. And I also see in the room several of our team who have participated in the past two MLK Symposium Food as Resistance events as well. So continuing to celebrate all of the work that they do. This live stream is also being sent out to Michigan Dining staff members in our various dining facilities, teams in break rooms. The meals being cooked for dinner tonight across the dining halls are inspired by the recipes here today, also by past participants in the MLK Symposium. So these recipes and stories continue to stay with us year after year the more we do this. We're really excited today to be a part of an all-chef panel too, and to see the works that chefs do and people who are in food do to advocate for communities. So I'll pass it back to the class, but thank you all for being a part of this really meaningful partnership. We appreciate all of you.
All right, thank you all. This is the last thing between hearing from our amazing speakers, so thanks for hanging in with us. I'm going to invite our speakers to come on up at your own pace. There are 4 chairs for each of you. And while you're doing that, thank you, Amanda. Yes, you all can come up. While they're doing that, I'm going to read some of their bios. It'll be on the screen behind me as well. It's probably pretty small, so don't worry about if you can't see it. I'm also have a more full bio for each of them. I'm going to start with Chef Phil Jones. Chef Phil Jones is leading voice in Detroit's food community developing scene. Known for his lifelong work across the culinary excellence and social justice, born in Cleveland and raised in St. Croix, New Jersey, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. He carries a multi-regional and diasporic perspective that shapes his vision for food as a tool of empowerment. Beginning in the 1980s, Jones honed his craft in celebration of kitchens, including Beverly Hills Grill, Rattlesnake Club, and Fishbones, later stepping into the executive roles at Lola's and Colors. He created more than 400 recipes for the Zoop chain, including chicken pot pie, which is still sold nationwide. But his path soon moved from restaurants to communities, where he emerged as one of Detroit's first community chefs. Blending fine dining roots with grassroots action. As a founding member of and current community food specialist for the Detroit Food Policy Council, Jones has shaped policy and practice alike. He worked with City Council to pass initiatives like Detroit's Grocery Coalition and Healthier Together, which strengthened independent grocers and trained the next generations of health leaders. During the pandemic, he coordinated the distribution of over 465,000 pounds of food, earning Detroit Free Press Chef of the Year in 2021. He also helped launch Make Food, Not Waste, whose upcycling kitchen has fed thousands while sparking a citywide conversation about food sustainability. Today, Chef Jones continues to champion equity for Black chefs, heirloom traditions, and systemic change. His personal venture, the Black Food Project, weaves together education, entrepreneurship, and cultural preservation, and living embodiment of the all hands in for Detroit food call to action, and a testament to the power of food to build, nurture, and transform. Next up is Amanda Saab. Amanda Saab is a passionate chef and activist who has spent over a decade at the intersection of food and social change. She has been recognized as one of Sherry Boom's magazine's 100 influential women in food, and is known for her appearances on MasterChef seasons 6 and 12, where she made history as the first hijab-wearing contestant. Amanda founded Dinner with Your Muslim Neighbor, an initiative that brought diverse communities together using universal language of food to create space for meaningful conversation and shared experiences. Amanda holds a master's degree in social work. Amanda holds a master's degree in social work and a bachelor's degree in psychology from Wayne State University, and a certificate in diversity, equity, and inclusion from Cornell University, which she integrates into her culinary experiences, or culinary expertise to champion social change. Amanda was selected to attend the James Beard Foundation Chef Boot Camp for Advocacy and Policy, further solidifying her commitment to advocacy, food justice, and sustainability. In addition to her culinary career, Amanda is deeply committed to education and mentorship. As a program director for Detroit Food Academy, she oversees culinary arts education, leading initiative programming for youth. Her work empowers young people to explore the culinary arts while building life skills, leadership, and confidence. Amanda's leadership and contributions have been recognized through several awards and prominent publications such as the New York Times, Washington Post, and the Today Show. Outside of her professional accomplishments, Amanda enjoys gardening, reading, and spending time with her family, as well as baking with her daughter, Hannah. Amanda believes food is more than just sustenance. It's a catalyst for change, a bridge between communities, and a means of fostering deep understanding of kindness within the world. Next on the stage, and hopefully behind me as well, is Josmine Evans. Josmine Evans weaves together food, culture, and storytelling through her work at Indigo Culinary Co. Initially exploring her identity through family recipes, Evans' journey evolved into a mission of rediscovering and preserving the ancestral heritage of the African diaspora. Her travels across African Atlanta have enriched her with diverse culinary traditions and stories, which she shares and reconnects communities with the cultural roots. As a cultural preservationist, Evans emphasizes the importance of learning from the past to inform the future, resisting the erasure of Black foodways and highlighting the contributions of Black people throughout the diaspora. Since 2018, Evans has traveled to West Africa with culinary scholar Michael Twitty and other Black food leaders to document the living links between traditional African foodways and their expressions. That ongoing journey, rooted in study, listening, and cultural exchange, continues to shape her understanding of food as a vessel for memory, movement, and resistance. Evans' narrative-driven culinary approach pairs dishes with historic context, making her pop-up events educational journeys through the African food waste. At the Joy Project, a community space and garden, she focuses on preserving and educating about traditional food waste, creating a living archive of African American and African Atlantic agriculture. Y'all are very impressive people. Her work has garnered recognition, including being named Emerging Chef by the Detroit Free Press in 2023. And through the Indigo Culinary Co., Evans offers her collection of stories and experiences, affirming collective identities, and planting seeds for future generations to appreciate the rich tapestry of the African diaspora cuisine. All right, and Chef Jermond Booze is a Detroit chef and educator who uses food as a language of memory, movement, and imagination. He directs culinary programming for the Detroit Food Academy, shaping the next generation of youth leaders through flavor, storytelling, and cultural literacy. A graduate of Eastern Michigan University with a degree in African American Studies, he brings historic depth to the perspective to every dish that he creates. As a co-creator of vinyl tastings, he turns albums into 6-course narratives, merging sound with scent and the spirit of African diaspora. His work honors the kitchens and the cultures that shaped him, from Arkansas roots to Detroit creative pulse, imagining Black food can be grounded in history and reaching towards the future. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Chef Phil, and to our panel, and excited to hear from each of you. Can I take this?
Thank you. Thank you for joining us on this cold and blustery Michigan evening. I know it's a challenge sometimes, but I think that the food that these folks have put out there tonight has been well worth it. And hopefully the conversation will make this worth your while. So thank you all, chefs. Thank you. I have the honor of knowing these folks intimately. My son, we work in the same spaces. We share a lot of common things. But that brings me to my very first question for you. What is resistance to you? What is your definition? You know, you say tomato, I say tomato. Amanda, what's your definition of resistance?
My definition of resistance is not accepting anything that is causing harm and standing up to that in my way. And I think later down the line we'll discuss what my brand of resistance is, and that's loving my neighbors deeply, intensely, and intentionally, creating space for us to come together. While all the systems that be want to pit us against each other, let's sit down and have a meal together. And that is my resistance in the state of the world right now.
She got one? Yeah. So
Can I
Josmine?
interrupt you and thank these people that cooked these food and bless these hands, because they didn't do that, and I feel like we need to before we move forward. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Bless the chefs. Sorry. Chef, we've been in the same spaces, but you don't know that I can run my mouth like I can. When I got invited to do this thing, I actually spent a lot of time thinking about what does resistance mean to me. And I came to the conclusion it's not, it is a benign word. Like, it doesn't have a positive or negative. And when I approach resistance as a person who believes they do resistance work, I have to keep in mind that the things that I'm resisting are also resisting me. So when I talk about resistance, it's important to name, like, my lens, where I think I am on this field, and also name the thing that I believe myself to be resisting, in order to engage with resistance as a strategy for something. So for me, resistance is at least the way I engage with it, is as a strategy. And the thing that I kept visualizing was like those exercise bands. When people that do exercise things, not me. Sometimes resistance can be a push up against, which is what most people think about, but sometimes the resistance can be a pull in as well. And so for me, food work as resistance involves acknowledging that food is a tool of oppression. Food is used as a strategy for control, and the way that I engage with it is to, as much as I can, push back against those efforts by pulling in within my community.
Thank you, thank you. So Booze, what is your definition of resistance?
What up, though?
What up, dog?
I'm gonna talk loud because I want to. I just realized that when I put the mic to my mouth. So we got these questions ahead of time, right? So there'll be kind of like things we've thought about. And when thinking about it, I wanted to tell a quick narrative. I'm a narrative-driven person. I like to tell stories with my food and also with my mouth. So I grew up in Little Rock, Arkansas, born and raised. My grandmother grew up on a sharecropping farm in the Arkansas Delta. When she was 13, she got her first pair of shoes. When she was 16, she got married to a man in the military. He took her to Italy. It transformed my grandmother's life, obviously, right? My grandmother learned from this man a lot of who she was, right? He gave her a lot of who she became. And one of the things that he had to endure inside the military was racism. He was abused. He was a mess hall sergeant, and he would often come home and he would put that abuse on my family, on my grandmother and my mother and the rest of the fam. And he developed an anti-blackness part of him that he passed on to my grandmother. And real quick, my grandmother passed a couple of years ago, and me and my mother were speaking, and she told me the story about when my grandfather came home and he could smell collard greens cooking inside the kitchen. He came home with another mess hall sergeant who was white. My grandfather was infuriated. He beat my grandmother, and my grandmother didn't make greens from 1965, right, until he passed and until I was a young man in my 20s. But I remember my grandmother distinctly starting to embark back on that journey to discover who she was, because as my grandmother got older, she realized the things she did because she felt forced to or was afraid. And as she got older, she started to find that spirit, that fight, that resistance inside of her to reclaim the things that she thought she had lost, that was stripped away from her for different reasons. And so I guess when I was thinking about that question, resistance to me is an action, right? It's a lot of different things to a lot of different people. You can use it scientifically. You can use it as far as we're using it right now, right? And food justice. But resistance is simply an action to do what you think is right, no matter what the opposing force is or where it's coming from, right? That's what I simply kind of boiled it down to. But shout out to my grandmother for giving me that inspiration. I thought it was a cool story.
Thank you, thank you. It kind of feels like resistance is almost a moving target. It varies from moment to moment, activity to activity. And Josmine, you brought up something very interesting. When you're resisting against something that's resisting against you. And we're working in spaces that require funding. Mm-hmm. And how do you all navigate that? You know, you've got folks who don't necessarily want you to do what you want to do, what you need to do. Amanda, could you speak to that for a moment?
In regards to funding in the nonprofit landscape, there are specific models that we're able to use to still do the very important work that we do with our youth. And that is where creative grant writing comes in and understanding restricted funds and all of that. But for me, a lot of my community work and the work that I do to change narratives is self-funded, community-funded. We're doing this together. It's a grassroots effort. It's everyone bringing a dish to the dinner so that we can have dinner together. It's someone donating a space, because these are limitations that are part of the thing that we are resisting, right? It's that there's limitation in space and we can't gather. The average American spends 35 minutes a day socializing with others, down from 45 minutes a few years ago. So we're not socializing, we're not engaging. So all this to say, the most significant impacts I've made is without institutional funding. It's grassroots efforts, it's doing it ourselves and figuring it out. And that's how I'm able to do the work I do.
Thank you, thank you. Booze, you talked about your grandmother's inspiration for you. Where are some other inspirations? What fuels your desire to resist? Are there books? Are there shows? What actually fuels this motivation for you?
So what fuels my motivation as far as resistance goes? My mother raised me a certain type of way. If I was in public and it was an empty chair, or I was sitting down and somebody needed a seat, my mother would tell me to get up. My mother would tell me to open the door. My mother would tell me to take the trash out. And these were the things that I thought that everybody else had to endure until I went to go stay at somebody else's house. And I realized my mother always pushed me to do what she thought was right, you know? And that was simply it. It wasn't like, she's not a super complicated lady. And I would say that that's what fuels me, is just how I was raised. Because resistance to me is only doing what's right in most times, not necessarily intentionally going against somebody or something. I'm just always trying to do what I feel is right in my spirit. But that's the way that I was brought up, but to do what was right at all times and to not make excuses why you can't.
Thank you. So, Josmine, let's go back to the resistance piece that you started talking about earlier when they're pushing back on you. How do you navigate that? How do you go back to the people that you're advocating for, that you're supporting, that you're trying to lift up in this world? How do you deal with that? How do you balance the pushback?
I think that the work that I think I'm doing is inherently push and pull. Just so y'all know, that's not what I read and what I was prepared for. So excuse me as I stumble through the answer a little bit.
It's fine.
No, all good. When I am working in community, I do it from a particular perspective. I engage with community work, nonprofit work, charity work, philanthropy from a view that I don't believe in philanthropy. I believe that if you have $1 million available for a grant, you have an extra $1 million to give away to people because you extracted it from somewhere. That's the people's money. So when I'm putting out an application to get money, I'm not asking you to bestow some gift upon me. I'm putting in a reimbursement request for money that the community has already spent. So when it comes to pushback from what restricted funding and all of that, I already start from when I'm in community and I'm being called into a space by the people that I'm accountable to, my community members, when we are identifying a problem and I'm being asked to help find a solution, that solution is coming from, well, what we already got. What can we make shake with what we already have? What are the resources that we haven't, let's do some resource mapping. Let's do some thinking about how we can figure this out on our own, and reaching out for that funding is really kind of last resource. So in that way, it kind of insulates the work from any extra pushback, from any extra resistance against the resistance, because it's already being fueled and propelled by people who already are backing it, people who are already engaged, people who already have identified the need and are looking for the solution. I think that, did that answer the question?
It certainly did. One of the things I've pulled out of that there seems to be a certain amount of responsibility inside that resistance. You're responsible to people, you're responsible for systems that make sense. And could you just expand upon that for just one moment?
I'm responsible for, yeah, I mean, it's all a responsibility. When you step into that space and you make yourself available to any group of people, there's responsibility to those people that comes with that. There is no such thing as a leadership, as a guidance, as a service provider without a responsibility to the people that you are providing leadership, service, or support. So I think that just comes built in to that process. And then again, like I said, my particular purview when I'm building programming, it's slower, right? I have to admit, like, I can't pull off a thing like this, have 6 chefs, 4 people sitting on the panel getting paid to do so, all of the beautiful accoutrement teams to do tech and all of that with 0 budget. So there are times where funding is absolutely necessary. Money is time. People need to eat right now. Starting a garden today is not going to feed us right now. So money is necessary in some spaces, but I'm not looking for the work that I'm doing to be necessarily a nation, international institution. The work that I do is super hyper-local, hyper-focused. What is your neighbor's name, and how can y'all share resources together? How can we re-empower ourselves with that ancestral knowledge, that ancestral technology, to move just right within our own spaces, independent of the infrastructure?
Thank you, thank you. So, Amanda, how do you distinguish between reforms that move us closer to liberation and reforms that make it just easier to deal with daily life? Where do we get to those real reforms?
The real reform happens with the people. It's in relationships. It's on the ground. It's in the dirt. It's getting our hands dirty together. And I think that only creates a chain reaction of community, like you said, knowing your neighbor's name, but also knowing when they need dinner and you have extra, building that social safety net that's been taken, reclaiming our time, the time and the money, but recognizing that we all need each other. And we talk about responsibility. My responsibility is to everyone, it's to humanity, it's to everyone that we're sharing this life with. And the way that we resist and we recognize that change is happening is together. And it's what we're starting in all of these conversations. And while they might seem small, and sometimes are not like tangible outcomes that we can measure, like we moved this needle or we got this much money, change of heart is real, and the ripple effects of changing people's perspectives and sharing who we are is significant. And I don't know that that can be measured necessarily, or that we can determine that that has happened, but you can feel it. These intrinsic things that we know when spaces are changed, when we come into a space and then leave a space and we feel better, we feel like we've connected with someone. How do we measure that? But I feel like that's the biggest impact and what we can continue to do to move the needle forward.
Thank you, thank you. Josmine, I'll pose the same question to you. What's real reform versus lip service? When are we actually going to get the brass tacks and make some changes?
Well, I can't tell you when. Only the Lord knows when.
Define it.
But in terms of definition for me is when power shifts. Instead of, I don't want a price point to change. You know, I'm not asking for reduced pricing and affordability. Not even asking for accessibility, more cash registers of different heights and different access points. What I want is for the people that need the medication to be the people making the decisions about what goes into it. Maybe not like the formula because they're not doctors, but like what do they want in their bodies? What do they not want in their bodies? Where do they want to acquire this thing? How do they want to acquire this thing? When the people that are using whatever the thing we're talking about have the decision-making power, have ownership over production. Now I'm gonna sound like a communist. But when that happens, that is policy. That to me is policy that is really pushing change and shifting the lens. And as opposed to something that is just a symbolic movement, a Martin Luther King Jr. Day when we still not free.
Great, thank you, thank you. Booze, I'll pose the same question to you.
So, to answer the question, and much like Josmine, does this reform shift power or does it soften the pain? Does it move the resources, ownership, and decision-making into the hands of the people? Does it move us closer to liberation? Does it move us closer to sovereignty? If not, I would say that it's another Band-Aid. It's another often disguise or mask. And as we use this phrase sometimes inside the Black community where we say, played in my face. And many things equate to being played in our face because they're not actually changing anything structurally, right? Because that's what we're fighting is the structural, institutional structures and not necessarily the remnants or the things that come from those things. And I guess for me, reform equals change when it changes things structurally and systematically. Otherwise, we run into the same issues over and over and over.
Thank you. Amanda, how do you prioritize your work? What's the first step? What is important to you step by step to see and to usher in change?
The world can feel very overwhelming for a lot of days, and it's like, do we respond now? An example is when the SNAP benefits were threatened to be cut, and then that required immediate response. People needed to eat right now, so that was an action that I took immediately following as a community and building those. But long term, what are we doing to ensure that our students don't have to be in that position again? So if their parent's SNAP is being cut off, we're not responding in that moment. So we've built a pantry now that we have, and it's just going to be accessible for the longevity of the organization at Detroit Food Academy so that we never have to wait for a crisis moment to respond and that we already have this built in. But if that didn't happen, we would probably have necessarily built that out for long term. For my work with Dinner with Your Muslim Neighbor and Chefs for Palestine, it's my life work, it's my legacy work, it's bringing people together to understand Arab and Muslims and get to know us through our food, but also recognizing that we have similar struggles of displacement, of not having food sovereignty. We've seen food being weaponized in Gaza right now. So we're all connected and we all share these same narratives and unless we get together, we won't be able to understand that. We've shared so much of this pain so that we can continue to heal into the future. And that's what propels me in the longevity of this work. Dinner with Your Muslim Neighbor, I hope will continue, forever. And that's taking the onus to Muslims and saying, hey, we want to be hospitable and neighborly, and these are our prophetic Islamic teachings, and welcome people in, especially during this time.
Thank you. Josmine, I'll briefly push that same question to you. What are the priorities? You mentioned strategy, and I think that's a very important element in resistance. So could you speak to that for us?
DTE, Detroit Water and Sewerage, my mortgage, my bills are my priorities, and I decided to say that because it's just real. When you're out here doing this work, as altruistic as you may want to be, as much as you, not to embody that I have to save myself before I save others, that you got to put your own mask on before you can help somebody else, because I think that we can all do this all at the same time. We can work together all at the same time. It doesn't have to be me first and then you, but DTE needs that fiat currency, right? So that does direct a lot of my work. That does determine where I show up and where I spend a lot of my time. And it is a struggle. And I think that people who do community work need to be real about that and be honest about it. And that's why I felt like I needed to say that to y'all. However, I think that I was sitting here while Amanda was talking and feeling like this is a food as resistance panel, and we kind of been talking around food a little bit and not really addressing the tangibles. And you mentioned the SNAP pull. When they pulled the SNAP, a friend of mine who is also my printer has a son. I have a CPG thing that I have to print. Anyways, my printer, his son had to put himself into a mental facility because he did not have the resources to pay for his mental health care and food at the same time. And so I say that for people to understand the seriousness. It's not the difference between Kellogg's cereal and the grocery store brand. It's not, oh, you can get by for a week on some top ramen. People are making literal life and death situations when it comes to choosing food. That is a disruption to this man's life, right? That means no more employment for him. He's now in a mental facility. If you don't have paid days off, or you aren't vested in a career or something like that where you can take a leave of absence, that means no more job for him. That means when he comes out of this facility, he's unemployed. What does that look like for a person who needs medical coverage to pay for their medication? So when we're talking about food security, that is the beginning of all of the intersections of other insecurities that cause people to make decisions that affect every other aspect of their life. So everything that we're doing now, in this moment, in these weeks, in these months, has hundreds of years, generations of consequences for something as little as $200 a month for food. And sorry, I'm gonna bring it back. Y'all resisting time limits. You put storytellers on the stage, we gonna resist these time limits.
You're doing well.
But when it comes to the question, which was,
Priorities.
Priorities. Yeah, it starts with those whatever the hierarchy of what it needs to what it means to survive for me, and that means making sure my needs are taken care of, and assuming that everyone else that I'm working with, everyone else that I encounter in this world is also doing the same, and thinking from that perspective when I'm engaging with people from wherever they are. I think that was my answer.
Thank you. So, Booze, while we're talking about food and resistance and such, what are the food stories? Where are the resistance points that we're not talking about? What is out there that's going on that we kind of soft shoe around?
You guys don't know this, but this is the first time that Phil has actually followed through on the show. So, Black Americans, the thing that we don't talk about inside of a lot is, on a regular basis, blacks do not have any control over our food ecosystem. Black Americans might be the furthest away from dictating what healthy means to our community because we don't control the grocery stores, what's in the grocery stores. And I remember, like I said before, I'm a very much narrative-driven person. Apparently Josmine is too. But quick story. I'm out in Madison Heights, I'm shopping for a gig, and I go to Kroger's, right? And I need to pick up some product from this Kroger. And so I grab some things, but it's not enough of what I need. So I do a quick little check to see where another Kroger's is. And there's 9 grocery stores within 2 square miles of this Kroger's. In Detroit, there's probably 15 grocery stores inside the whole city for 600,000 people. The grocery stores in Madison Heights reflect the community, right? In Detroit, what do they reflect? Cheap prices, low quality product, right? How is this young child supposed to fight obesity and diabetes when the grocery store has sugar smacks that are cheaper than the kale and the collards? How? How do we change our situation or our narrative when we don't control distribution, as Josmine spoke to, when we don't control ownership of grocery stores inside the community, when we have very little control over anything inside that ecosystem? And I think it sounds good in different spaces, respectfully, when I'm with different groups who are food justice advocates to talk about how we're moving forward. But the truth of the matter is that that's a very, very complicated and high dollar fight. It's not simply because people just don't want us to eat good. It's because somebody makes a whole lot of money off of it, and they don't care about that community whatsoever. So I would say that's the elephant in the room a lot of the times for the Black community, is that we simply just do not have any control inside of our community over food. And you see different entities like DBCFSN, and we talk about resistance. Resistance to me, and I wore this intentionally because I thought about what resistance is wearing this DBCFSN, which is founded by Malik Kenny, one of the largest urban farms inside the country, one of the first inside the city of Detroit. Those are the steps we have to take, and using some of these words inside this document with urgency in a sustainable fashion. It's a complicated thing that we have to approach inside the Black food ecosystem, but that would be the big thing that I think we need to address and that we don't speak about enough.
Thank you, thank you. So, Yasmine, let's talk about the receipts. Where has your work made a difference? Where has this work, this resistance, made a difference in your eyes? What are some of the success stories?
When I read that question, it came up for me to emphasize that it's not my work, it's our work. I don't do anything in isolation. And I just saw Dr. Shakara walk across the back of the room, somewhere back there. Y'all are lucky to have them in y'all ecosystem, in y'all community. But they are on the executive board for DBCFSN, which includes the Detroit Black Farmer Land Fund, which I happen to be more in closer relationship with than DBCFSN as a larger community. If you are unaware of the Detroit Black Farmer Land Fund, I really wanted to talk to y'all about it today because it is a very tangible example of the power of knowing your neighbor's name, that you don't have to be an off-back 501c$3 $3 million budget to make impact in your community. 3 people who are already doing a particular type of work, 3 entities get together, sit down and have a conversation and have a fundraiser. And now they've bought over, I don't know what the numbers are, I'm not gonna lie to y'all, but at least 70 awardees, at least 70 Black people in Detroit now, as opposed to 3 years ago, 70 more people in Detroit own land, own land, own land. 70 more people own land because 3 people got together and did a fundraiser. 70 people own land that they're growing food on specifically. 70 people own land to grow food on because of the Detroit Black Farmer Land Fund. And that is an incredible resource, speaking to what Jermond was saying about us not having control systemically. Maybe our authority is not recognized by higher powers, but don't let that information sit in your body as hopelessness and helplessness, because you do have power. We do have control, we do have choices. It's just how are you going to wage them? How are you going to use them? My partner and I in 2021 bought 3 city lots with the assistance of the Detroit Black Farmer Land Fund. That's great. We own property. We grow food on it. We entertain community. We have conversations about Afro-diasporic foods. But what that also does is it sits up against gentrification. The people in the neighborhood that I live in, the land that I purchased is in my own neighborhood. It's not across the city, even though that's fine. It's in my own neighborhood. We get to determine we don't want a Starbucks. We don't want hot yoga. We don't want an organic mayo shop. We want land, we want it to be open, we want the bugs, the birds, the bees, and all that to have access to it. And we want the autonomy to know no matter what goes down in this city, we have the ability to be able to grow some food and feed ourselves as a community. And we can add to that land whatever other resources that we want our community to be able to have. And I'm not nobody special. I don't have a college degree. I didn't even do this when I was y'all age. I wasn't in symposiums, I was partying. You know, I'm serious. And I'm saying that and sharing that to say to like feel activated, feel powerful, feel like you can make up your mind to do a thing and then just do it. And it doesn't have to be Insta famous. It doesn't have to be 40 under 40 or any of those type of things to have actual tangible impact. Again, like I said, yes, we grow food. Yes, that's great, food systems, but we're also innovating in design. We're having conversations about that there. We have artists that come there. People who do the building come there. Everything starts with the land, right? So in order for the people that do the fabric things to do things with fabric, they need resources for that. The people who do the teaching, they need spaces to teach. You need access to land for all of that. So us as growers, as keepers of the land, stewards of the land, we are the starting point, the initial point for that within our block, in our neighborhood. DBCFSN, Detroit Black Farmer Land Fund, my mentor and coach, Edric, is over here from in the business of food. The people that I'm sitting on this stage with, all networks of people who are out here making those small decisions, expanding those relationships so that the things that they choose to do with their life every day have direct impact on the people around them. I'm a really big proponent on just the small things and like a micro community efforts that create big change. Y'all can legislate what you want to. How long slavery been illegal? and we still have problems with race in this country. You know, you can legislate whatever you want to. It's really a cultural shift that has to happen for us to move anywhere as a human species. So that getting to know your neighbor part is really, really important.
Thank you, thank you. Amanda, I'll put the same question to you. What are some of the wins? You know, this is very heady, hard stuff to deal with. What are some of the success stories that you've seen out there personally and inside of the system?
I would say for me, the biggest impact and the biggest success story that I have is raising my daughter to understand everything that's going on for what it is, so she doesn't have to grow up and unlearn like I did. Coming home from school and talking about the things, I think the most revolutionary thing that I can do as a mother is to mother my daughter in justice and understanding the world around us. Some tangible things are Chefs for Palestine. We've raised over $100,000 in direct aid for food in Gaza. Thank you. And that was chefs in this room, Chef E, Chef Booze, coming together. It's a chef community to raise money for people that need food. It's what we do. We feed people, whether they're here or across the world. Another tangible is we've hosted over 40 Dinner with Your Muslim Neighbors, and last week we hosted our largest in partnership with the city of Dearborn and had over 100 attendees. And it speaks to the hard work that is required that Josmine talks about to make actual change. It's sitting together, knowing each other, and then we can have the tangible number outcomes that we all crave.
Are you from Detroit?
I'm from Dearborn.
From Dearborn. You're not from Detroit, and neither are you, huh? None of us are from Detroit. I just only wanted to point that out because Detroit is a special place, sociopolitically. There's a spirit here that is not, I'm not waiting for no legislation. If we need it, we're gonna provide it for ourselves. And that particular energy, y'all have access to, tap into it, and get it done.
Thank you, thank you. Chef Booze, we'll put that question to you. What are some of the victories? That elephant in the room, they always say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Give us a couple of those bites we've taken.
I feel like he was just taking a shot at me just now. So, you know, life happens in chapters, right? And so it's hard for me to just like sit here and say this is the biggest thing that's ever happened, right? But I can say in this chapter of my life, the place where I feel like I've seen things happen before my eyes is definitely working with the youth of Detroit Food Academy. I'm not a parent. I don't have kids. I have a cat, Cleo. And I've had Cleo since she was a kitten. And I had a cat prior to her, who I got at a different age, like an adult cat, right? Cleo goes to sleep in my arms like a baby, right? It's the cutest thing ever. And my adult cat would scratch me, and you know, had their own part of the house. And I didn't realize that how much of a difference it made working with one cat at one age as opposed to working with an adult cat. I never thought about my actual impact on youth. Because I didn't work with youth. I came from culinary, restaurants, grocery stores, consulting. I had never worked with youth, and I didn't realize, because I was a pessimist times 1,000, and I didn't realize that I had faith that the world would actually get better until I started working with these kids. Straight up, I did not believe that things would ever change until I realized how drastically different those youth are at that age, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, than I was. And what I get to do as an instructor is to help them think critically about the food system. I expose them to every aspect and component, because it's not about showing up and learning how to cook. It's about learning about policy. It's about learning about distribution. It's about learning about the makers as opposed to the buyers. We have the opportunity to impart so much wisdom to these youth, and the beautiful thing about the organization is in most spaces, you do something and then you move on. I work with these youth 3-4 years in a row, and it has given me the opportunity to be more impactful with these youth than I could have ever imagined. And I guess I would say that has felt like, in this chapter, the things that have been the most impactful. Watching youth grow from the age of 13 to 18 is transformational. and knowing that they got anything good about themselves from you, especially when it comes to the food ecosystem, leaves a mark on you that is one of the most beautiful things I've ever experienced.
Thank you, thank you. We're starting to wind down here, and I want to put one last question to you, Amanda. We're talking about responsibility, and where is the chef responsible? When does it get beyond prices? When does it get beyond people sitting down there? Where in this system that we know needs change, where's the chef responsible for it?
I became a chef because I love people and I love bringing joy and with my baked goods and sharing it with them. So my responsibility is to the people I'm feeding beyond just creating something delicious and that's profitable, as you say, so we can sustain our livelihood, because it is an important part of what we're doing. But I think it's from day one. You're opening in a community, you're serving a community, You must be in service to the people that you're transacting with, that you're providing food for, and hopefully it's more than just that transaction, and that we're creating those relationships. And for me, as a Muslim, like, these are the teachings that we have to care for the earth. We have to care for our neighbors. So that's intrinsic for me since I was raised as a child, as we talk about, that I have a duty to serve everyone around me. And the responsibility of chefs comes from day one. Day one, you become a chef, you're serving your community and the people, and it's beyond just one bite. Hopefully it's nourishing their bodies and their spirits.
Thank you, thank you. So we're getting ready to come up on our question and answer session here. One quick last brief question for each of you. If resistance has a recipe, what would your dish be? Amanda? Ingredients, techniques, flavors?
I wrote this down because I loved it. It would definitely be sourdough bread. The starter as our ancestral knowledge that's passed down, that I think is most important for all of the foods that we eat. Honesty that's fermented over time. We all need that radical honesty with each other in all spaces. Salt is the repair, because we need it, and without it, it would taste not great and it would be flat. And salt preserves, so we absolutely need that. And joy as the foundation and not the garnish, because joy feeds life, and we need it, so it feeds the bread in that sense.
Thank you. Josmine, what's your recipe? What's your dish?
I did not prepare an answer for this. So off the dome, it would be some leafy greens or some red meat, something heavy in iron and vitamin K, something to fortify the blood. And this is real, because we're really soft. We are as a people and as a nation, and we really need to get, like, so many Americans have iron deficiencies. We really do, and I think that has a lot to do with the lack of warrior spirit inside of our bodies. I think we need to get some iron in our blood, and pick up some pickaxes and torches, and really get serious about life. So yeah, some leafy greens and some red meat to beef up our folate and iron content.
Thank you, thank you. Booze, what's your dish?
My dish, I actually learned how to make from Chef E. It would be gumbo. So I chose gumbo because, to me, gumbo equates to what America really is in a lot of different respects. During slavery, Louisiana was a free territory. Slaves would run there. And you also had a lot of French trappers. You had Native Americans there. And gumbo is a derivative of a dish that comes from Africa, okra stew, right? But it combines sassafras from the Native American community. It combines the Holy Trinity from the French community. So it's a true American, what do you want to call it, Pops? Oh, no help. It's a true mix of different American cultures that have survived. But in particular, I love the fact that when I went to Africa with Josmine for the first time, and we were at this event, And somebody said they were making gumbo. One of the African gentlemen said they were making gumbo. And it was similar to what we found here. It wasn't like they took gumbo from our America and then made their version of it. It was gumbo that we were making here in America that was very similar to the original. And I've always loved that dish as a result of knowing how much it connected me to the continent. And for how it's built out, the roux with equal patience and discipline. If anybody's made roux before, it's easy to burn, right? It's easy to be too light. It's just right. Dark chocolate like me. The Holy Trinity equals community, right? Stock, history, the bones scraped together to make that deep flavor. Sorry, like Chef Amanda, I had to write this one out. The okra, the filet, equal culture, right? The heat equals the truth, and the protein equals ownership. Land, store, supply chain, we want it all. So that will be my dish.
Thank you.
You know, when I saw y'all bring papers up here, I thought that I had missed something. You had your book and you had your papers, and I was like, I'm unprepared for something. We figured out what it was.
You did your thing. You did your thing. I guess we're ready for Q&A now.
All right, y'all, we're quickly gonna do one more eye clicker question. So let's get these students engaged, and thank you so much, chefs. It's such an honor to have you here. We're gonna move back into Q&A with the audience in just a second. Getting this started here. I wish I had 3 arms. All right. We're curious, so students, again, only participate in this if you're enrolled in the course. If you're not, then we invite you to think about these things. What is one way you might practice food as resistance in your own life, big or small? And I have the results coming in here, so I'll read them out to y'all. Usually take about a minute and a half. I wish we had some Jeopardy music. So most folks are saying supporting local growers, cooks, or food workers. 28 folks said C. We have 16 people saying changing what or how I eat. 10 getting involved in organizing advocacy or mutual aid. 11 saying reflecting, learning more, or rethinking my relationship to food. C keeps growing and growing. We have 60 students now. It's C. 21 folks saying sharing food stories or knowledge with others. This is great. I feel like students are inspired by you all chefs because they're keen to support local growers, cooks, and food workers. We'll give this about maybe 10 more seconds and then we'll jump into Q&A with the audience. All right. Thanks so much, students. Chef Phil, I'm going to pass this back to you. So you can, oh, amazing, you can facilitate us here.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lale, and my question is for Chef Booze. So like you, I go to EMU too, so go Eagles. And
Yeah.
I've taken some amazing classes in our African American Studies department, and they talked a little bit about it in your bio, but I was wondering if you could go a little more in depth about how the teachings from the program contributed to your cooking skills or inspiration or like educational pieces you tried to tie and blend in there. And then real quick, I want to shout out Amanda, because you talked a lot about the word grassroots, which the first time I heard that was through EMU's African American Studies program. So thank you for that.
Wow. Let's go Eagle. No. And her question again was how my time at Eastern with African American Studies impacted me as a chef, or just kind of like tied into what I do. I would say, so I'm from Little Rock. I went to the school called Little Rock Central High School. It's real famous. There's movies about it, right? Little Rock 9, it's a whole thing. I was a knucklehead though. And really I went to Eastern because my sister went to this really prestigious university and all my best friends did. So after I graduated from culinary school, I thought I needed like a BA. I was like, let me go get more debt. And I was captivated by African American Studies. It wasn't what I went to Eastern for dietetics, And I took an intro African American studies class with this gentleman named Doc Pete, legend. And in that, I realized that he wasn't teaching me about Black studies, he was teaching me about myself. A lot of the things that my mother had told me connected, but it hadn't connected and resonated prior to getting better context. In particular, learning about, I had to call for a paper one time, my mother, just to get some background, to ask about just some different things when she was going to school, because she went to Little Rock Central High School shortly after it was integrated. And I was getting more information, and I realized in this conversation, my mother told me about my grandmother going to court to get the kids into better schools. I didn't know this. And my mother showed me she wound up having some of the articles still, resistance, right? And from that point on, I realized that I was learning about myself and my history, and it empowered me that much more, and it filled me, right? And I would say that was the Jermond Booze that was resisting the power, you know, for the sake of resisting the power, because the more I learned about my history, as I put things together, the more I realized that I needed to do more. And I never thought I would get to a place in life where I'd be able to be blessed to be able to combine Black studies with my food, with music, with youth. I feel like I've had hit the ultimate jackpot as far as jobs go, because it all has culminated now to where I feel like I'm a chef who loves to cook, but also impactful in my community through my work and my education, if that answers your question.
Thank you. Thank you. We have any more questions from the audience? We have one right back here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the panel. This was really amazing. I wanted to talk about Detroit and get your reflections on where Detroit might be in 20 years, 25, in terms of the food systems. A lot of people are looking to Detroit to lead in this space. And so what is the future based on all the things you've shared around systemic change, grassroots change, resistance to the theme of the panel? Just curious to get those thoughts.
I think Phil should answer that one first.
Well, Detroit is always going to be in front, always moving forward. We have a history of resistance, and especially around food. Even when our most racist mayor, Hazen Pingree, back around 1900 or so, he actually invested his own personal money into plots of for people to farm in their homes. Detroit is always going to be a place where the fight is going to be for real, it's going to be taken seriously. We have a city that has been historically looked upon in the negative eyes because the average person has power. Our manufacturing base here in the city of Detroit had people working and making $80,000, $100,000 a year without going to school. So we have an infrastructure for resistance that's always going to be there. There's always going to be some issues, but Detroiters are strong, and the work that these folks do here is going to carry on.
I'll just expand that to also say whether or not people are looking at Detroit, Detroit is leading, especially as it relates to food. Booze already told y'all earlier, Detroit has the second largest urban farm in the nation. Detroit has more urban farming per capita, square footage per capita in the world. Detroit is going to be leading no matter who's watching in that regards. And that combined with that spirit of we're not waiting for permission, we are going to do what we need to do. Detroit is already leading the nation in terms of urban ag regulations. Just got our first director of urban agriculture for the city of Detroit, largely due to pressures from DBCFSN and Detroit Black Farmer Land Fund. And that is continuing to expand. Because of Detroit Black Farmer Land Fund and DBCFSN, USDA is in Detroit trying to figure out how to create programming and expand their offerings to accommodate the urban farmer, not just the big farmer in middle America that's growing corn commodity crops. In those ways. DBCFSN in relationship with the Detroit Black Farmer Land Fund is creating farmer co-ops within the city of Detroit so that small farmers have the opportunity to actually meet the demands of grocery stores, of restaurants, not just play, not theoretically, tangibly, in real time. This is happening in the city of Detroit. So yes, in 20 to 25 years, I think that whether it's expansion, the Rust Belt, I feel bad saying, what was Henry Ford doing? Conveyor belt, that type of, yeah, there you go, assembly line. Yeah, something racist, absolutely. But doing that type of technology and that type of advancement in terms of production, be it Gretchen Whitmer wants to invest in manufacturing chips and all that type of stuff, as far as the city of Detroit being a leader in urban ag is and will be.
And I just want to add, Keep Growing Detroit has over 2,500 registered gardens in the city of Detroit, which is the largest such initiative anywhere in the world.
So I'll be succinct in my response and say that Detroit will be a lot closer to sovereignty, liberation, ownership than it is right now. If you don't give a group what they need, they will take it. If you oppress a group, they will break. So I believe it's hard because we live in a very evolving world, right? Like, if you could have told me in 2017 you saw the pandemic coming, you are a freaking liar, right? So I don't know exactly what that landscape will look like, but I know what Detroiters are pushing towards, and that big word is sovereignty, and sovereignty for me.
And I think of our students, so they'll be in their mid-30s at that point, and that for me means the future is very bright and hopeful.
Thank you.
Hey, it's a little short. Hey, everybody. I wanted to ask a question for Josmine. Is this Josmine? Josmine specifically, but like I want everybody to answer. But you were saying like at our age, you was like partying and stuff, and like that you didn't necessarily get a degree. So at what age did like you feel like it changed for you, or like at what point did it transition to where it was like, okay, this is something that's important to me, and that you like wanted to go for it?
I'm not sure that it ever did. Academia still gives me the ick. But in 2019, I moved to Detroit. It was my first time being away from my entire family. And I've always grown up being Hank's daughter, Merlin's granddaughter, Carol's niece. And I moved to Detroit and don't nobody know who none of them people are. So I had to figure out who I was. Who am I as an individual? Who am I gonna be in this world? That's a big question for Elmo. So I did that. My partner at the time, I was cooking food in our house, and I would cook them and be like, my Auntie Carol used to cook this for me during this time. My grandma made me German chocolate cake for my birthday. My dad made me this spinach casserole, and I used to get teased for making it, like whatever. And I was telling them these stories and cooking this food and trying to explain to them who I was. I didn't realize it at the time, but that's what I was doing, trying to explain it to them and myself and figure myself out. And I started asking questions like, why does my grandmother on my maternal side make brown gravy and my dad's big sister makes red gravy? My maternal line being from Virginia, my paternal line being from Louisiana. I started asking those questions and I started getting after the answers, which made me learn about this thing called the Great Migration. I learned about the Great Migration and I was like, oh, that's my family story. I already know that. My dad already told me that about his mama and her sisters who moved to California. And I started reading books. And realizing a lot of this stuff that people were learning in academia and had names and concepts and theories were things that I already knew and understood about my family. I started traveling. I had a job. I was making six figures. I had access. I had means. I had privilege. I was in the Caribbean. I was in South America, in people's aunties' houses, learning how to cook, learning stories. And I just felt like it became more incumbent upon me. How do I scale? How do I share this with more than just coming back and telling my friends, oh, girl, I was eating rice cook-up. It was so good. Like, how do I scale this? It's so much work. It costs so much money. It takes so much time for me to get these stories. How do I give these back to Black people as a whole? How do I leverage my privilege to help other people out and gain this affirmation of identity, this empowerment. And that is how I got in this lane. I was one of those however many 100,000 of Black women that don't have no jobs that worked for the federal government, and started leaning into my passion projects to pay them DTE bills. And now I'm just coming up with systems and processes by which those things become mutually beneficial. I can pour my heart, I can pour the things that excite me and make me happy into my community while also being able to sustain a healthy life for myself. So I don't think I ever did like flip a switch and like go back to a thing and be like, oh, there was some value there. And that's just me. Like, I'm not stay in school, y'all. Like, that's just me and my learning style and the way that I engage with the world. But it really was that personal identity seeking that put me out like really in there into the just like gross consumption of material.
Wait, I want to ask one more thing that you said. Any book recommendations?
I had one because that was a question I did prepare for. And there were two that I actually don't even recommend often, but I thought would be good for this audience, and that's Recipes for Resistance. Is actually just a book. And then there's one called Feeding the Other. And that one really shaped my perspective of how to talk about the fact that I don't believe in philanthropy and charity. In terms of like our systems of feeding people soup kitchens and how all that stuff is really just messed up, for lack of better language in this time. So Recipes for Resistance and feeding the Other. And then all the, the Edna Lewises, the Michael Twitties, the Tony Tipton Martins, and all of the Diaries of a Gullah Geechee Girl, all of those just really feel good, spiritually charged literatures as well.
Thank you. And we're going to turn this back over to Julius.
All right, thank you again, each of you. Thank everybody for coming, the amazing chefs. I think Josmine's shared some point in the past hour or so that really stuck with me is, he said something like, y'all have the power. And I hope there's lots of things that we're all taking from this conversation tonight, but we have the power. If we want change, if we want resistance, if we're searching for revolution, that starts around the kitchen table. That starts around shared meals. It starts around having our hands in the dirt. So thank you all for coming here tonight, for sharing this table together. And I hope that's something that you take with you. There's a number of events that are happening here on campus and throughout our community. There's a few slides that I'm going to go very quickly through, but there's also flyers out there sharing a little bit more about each of those. One, there's a student empowerment fund. So, there's funding for your power here on campus. The urban agriculture internship, this is an internship actually we partner with at Growing Hope and host with a number of other organizations and farms in Detroit. Would love to see folks, there's people in this room who have been through that, so definitely take a look into that. Stacey Abrams is the keynote speaker for the Farm Stop Conference coming up in a couple of weeks. It's a really phenomenal conference. I would highly recommend it for people wanting to do food systems work. And this is just the beginning. We have a whole semester's worth of speakers coming virtually, so you don't have to bear the cold, but to continue this conversation, to continue having meaningful relationships, building community around the kitchen table as we're doing this work. So join us that whole time. All right, thank you all for coming. Thank you again.